He didn't like that very much. You heard, Chris? You see me getting up, and you're gonna bitch at me.
Watch your mouth. I'm live.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
I know. I got issues using foul language too, but I gotta try to control that. You too, cat. I hear that. I don't want to hear that out of your mouth, you feline witch. Did you hear what he said?
What?
Nasty language coming out of that cat. Listen to what he's saying. You want to be stuck in the bathroom and starve, cat? I understand meoweth. Don't try to hide that crap.
You're yelling at him and he's stepping on me.
Hey, Mike. Strawberry. Beatles Cuber. Haven't seen you in a while. Good morning, Stan Lee, and just make something. Doing okay, I think. Most of my problems nowadays are mental issues I need to work through. Let me see if I can find a way of raising this camera up a little higher. I need a little tiny little tripod I gotta get for this. That's right, I'm alive. That's what matters. I'm alive, I'm debt-free, doing okay. No printer today because I actually have to go today. I have a conference call with the lawyers I got to deal with, and I also got a job. Well, a work, not a job. You know, there's I got to go take some pictures of some property today. I'm like, yeah, going to get myself $125 each, and I got 2. Normally I try to make them not Wednesday, but they really needed them for Thursday, so I have to go today and get the pictures. Thankfully, they're both pretty local. It's only about a half hour away. I think... Stuck in the house. Well, thankfully, I live rural, so, you know, it's not really a big deal for us to go out because there's, like, nobody here. Yeah, I think it's estate sale kind of stuff. From what I never asked, of course, but from what I'm gathering, I'm guessing, you know, people die, the family wants to get rid of the property they have. And, for the dice box, the ones that are helping me out for the dice box, so I'm guessing people die, and, you know, you have an estate sale, you sell the stuff from the estate to pay off the estate's debts or whatever. And I'm guessing that, you know, it's pretty common, it seems, for people to own plots of land out here. Like, you can buy an acre of land for like $2,000. And I've even seen it less than that. And, so I'm guessing they got to sell this land. So they hire out companies like this company to, you know, process the sale of this property that these people don't need. And, so they hire out people like me to go and take pictures, because this company might be in San Francisco or New York or North Carolina, and so they'll hire people like me to go out and take pictures of it to so that they can sell it, you know, so because all they have is maps and GPS coordinates. Yeah, the hexagonal dice box thing I'm making, so we're having a conference call between the lawyer and whatnot. Yeah, I think we're doing okay. This keeps annoying me. It's low. It's just at the right height that it keeps hitting the tabletop. Oh, no, we're not talking about, well, it depends. Okay. My situation where I inherited my dad's debt was very unique. That doesn't normally happen. The corrupt township took advantage of the situation and screwed me over. But that's rare. That doesn't usually happen. The murder machine's doing good, although you should have heard Ender's foul mouth this morning. Yeah. He's kind of like Groot. He doesn't think I understand his language. Yeah, I heard that dirty language, cat. He was hungry and meowing up a storm.
I will hurt you.
So, when somebody dies here, if they're lucky and they have somebody in the family who can handle it, you can be what's called executor of the estate. Now, the executor is not responsible for any of the debts of the deceased. They're just taking on the responsibility of handling the estate. So, if there's any bills to be paid, property to be sold, materials to be sold. So if a person doesn't have anything, then yeah, all those debts would be written off. No. But if the person does have equity, hey Podgar, hey Bunny Love. So if the person does have equity, then the executor would basically take on a what do you call that? Power of attorney kind of estate, meaning they would be authorized to act in the deceased's name. So, for example, I went to the banks and closed his accounts. I called the credit cards up and closed his credit cards. I got 3 GME, and I wish I had more, because it's doing good. Oh, man. My dream is this hitting $10,000, and then I can, put a down payment on a new car. But that's a pipe dream. I know it was over 300 this morning. Well, it's going down. It's at 280 right now. So, hey, AMC's going up $11. And the Anycubic Chiron's a good machine. You're going to enjoy that. Just only use hot water and like Dawn to clean the bed. Try not to use things like alcohol and acetone. It damages the surface. We're finding out more and more that the silicon dioxide surface, this hybrid surface that they're using, is it's not good to use chemicals on it. So just hot water and a little bit of soap if you need to, but usually just a rag on hot water is usually enough. But so the executor would then handle things like closing accounts, and now if there is any resources left, the executor can use those resources to pay off debts. So for example, if the house still has a mortgage on it, the executor could sell the house, work with the bank to sell the house, pay off the mortgage, and you read the will to decide where any resources that are left to go. My situation was a little unique in that my dad and I shared the same name. So the township attached my house that was in my name to my dad's estate, effectively putting my house in probate. Probate is what happens when you have equity, when you have stuff that's worth something, and it was not addressed in the will. Well, duh, my house is not addressed in my dad's will. But because they put it in probate by declaring it part of his estate, that created several very nasty problems for me. First, it gave ownership of the house equally to the 3 of us, me, Michelle, and Logan. And now Michelle, of course, isn't a problem. She's a reasonable, rational human being. Logan, on the other hand, saw an advantage where he can maybe get some money. And it took him 2 years before he finally realized he's not going to get any money, because there is none. And so it took the real estate people saying, we're not going to help you unless the house is in one person's name. Because real estate doesn't want to deal with that kind of quagmire, that kind of mess. They need it to be in one person's name. So the 2 had to sign over their share to 1, so that the house is in one person's name, and now the real estate companies would interact and deal with us. I mean, he kind of had it right. He's like, so you're going to cut me out of everything, right? I'll get nothing from the house. I was like, you're getting nothing from the house anyway. Because of what the courts did, I now have equity and I have debt. Actually, I have no equity. Equity is the difference between, I have a value and I have debt. If the value is bigger than the debt, you have equity. If the value is smaller than the debt, you just have debt. You have loss. So I had to explain to him that, Dad's debts are bigger than Dad's equities, than his properties. So no matter what, nobody's getting anything. And hey, Francis. So he finally accepted that. You know, he's like, well, can't you just ask for a few $1,000 more so we can get some money? I was like, that's not how it works. You know, even if I could get them to give me an extra 10 grand, we would still get nothing because we owe that much. You know, when the real estate company cuts a check for the house, they're not going to cut a check for Chris Taylor Jr. and say, okay, don't forget to pay your debts. No, the money goes directly to the debt holders. And if there's anything left, they'll cut me a check. There was nothing left. He didn't understand that. Or he understood it. He didn't want to accept it. And so like in a normal situation, if there was no debts, then we would be able to keep the house, or we would sell the house and split the money. Well, although it was my house, so I didn't have to split anything. But you see the point. So that's how death is handled here. You know, plenty of the ones that I called up and explained, okay, he died. Do you need a death certificate? Yes, sure. Fax a death certificate, and then they wipe out the debt. Yeah, we always had a theoretical discussion. What would you do? Show us the house today. Show you the house today? I guess I can. Hang on. Although I don't think it's current. Let's see how current it is. There it is. It's still older image data. Yeah, this is still from a couple years ago. So there's the house. 2-story, 2,400 square foot. Garage, basement. That's my pickup truck. That's my electric car. I still have that mailbox. And well, that's part of the problem that we had, is that our father made a lot of promises about, making sure we were taken care of, because we sacrificed a lot, for the family. It's what you do. When you have family, you take care of family. I mean, I maxed out my credit at $30,000 and worked for peanuts because the family needed me to, and that's what I did. That's what you do. At least that's the way I was raised. Maybe that's dumb. Maybe I should have taken my money and run, but I was raised that family takes care of family. And so it really didn't bother me. Well, it bothered me, but I understood. I did what I had to do. But the thing is, he couldn't follow through with those promises. And so everybody got very spiteful that they weren't getting nothing. They saw me, Michelle lost her 401k. She loaned it to Dad to help pay off debts and stuff, and that's never coming back. He defaulted on a credit card that was in her name, although that's gone now. It's been over 7 years. But, things like that. Hey, 3DP but we always had that discussion of what would you do if you won the lottery. And I told my dad, I was like, the first thing I would do is buy a flamethrower. And he giggled, because of course that's something I would say. And he's like, what the hell would you do with a flamethrower? I was like, I would take $2 million and I would put it into an account to support me for the rest of my life. I would then take the rest of that money, pile it up in the front yard, and say, we're going to split this evenly without argument, or I'm going to burn it all right fucking now. Because I'll be damned if I'm going to let it tear us apart. So, because, a sudden influx of money destroys families. And that's partly, actually, it's mostly because we have created a society in this country where money is absolutely everything. And I don't mean money is everything like greed and selfishness. I mean, money is everything. You either have some or you die. I mean, I love when people say, well, live off the land. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not allowed to use any land I don't own, so I need permission and money. Okay? I can't plant stuff unless I own land. I can't hunt unless I own land or I get permission from the state. I can't even fish without permission from the state. It used to be you can saltwater fish, but they usurped that right as well. They violated the 9th and 10th Amendment of the Constitution by taking away your right to fish. Because if you say, well, there's nothing that says you could fish in the Constitution. Well, yes, there is. The 9th Amendment says the government's powers are enumerated. Please show me where it says they can take away my right to fish. And the 10th Amendment says, all rights belong to the people unless they are explicitly given to the states or the feds. So, yes, fishing is your right. And you can't even, theoretically, you can go offshore 12 miles and fish without asking permission, but you have to eat the fish 12 miles offshore. If you come back with the fish, you need permission. Oh, and by the way, you need permission to launch the boat, too. Even if you take a log, assuming you could somehow get that log without trespassing, which you can't because you don't own the land, so you're taking somebody else's log without permission, and if you hollowed it out into a dugout canoe, you need to get registration for that canoe to put it in the water.
Chris, no ate all of his food. You hear me? No ate all of his food.
Good. Yeah, you gotta watch him otherwise. Ender's a greedy little bastard.
I know, Nosy started growling at him because he looked at him and he went over towards him. And Ender backed up.
But that's of course a pipe dream. I used to see the lottery as an idiot tax. I thought anybody who plays the lottery, you're either wealthy and don't care, so you're gambling for nothing, because who cares, you're wealthy, or you're an idiot, because it's just an idiot tax on poor people. But then I realized it's not an idiot tax. It's a desperation tax. People are desperate. So I was wrong to consider people idiots for that, even though I won't do it. We would buy a few tickets when you had the big mega jackpot, because, what's $10 versus $100 million, you know what I mean? But it's not an idiot tax, it's a desperation tax. As I learned more and more about how things operate, I came to realize that. So, but I don't want to get political. This is a Heatbed chat session, so kind of a take on fireside chat. So I'm just prepping all the gear, charging up the drone batteries, charging up the camera batteries, getting everything charged up and ready to go. And, figure do this for an hour or two and then take off, go take the pictures, get back in time for the conference call and make $250. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing that you bring up. Is driving a right? And can the government force you to put a license plate on a car and whatnot? And the answer is not quite what you think. First of all, yes, they can force you to do anything they want. That is the nature of power. If they have a bigger stick than you do, they can make you do whatever you want. Yeah. So registering and plating a car. I think it is a valid thing. I think they could, make a case for the constitutionality of registration and license plating cars, because theft of cars is a very serious issue, and the government is tasked with providing for the common good. That is a constitutional duty that the government is given, and registration and plates do inhibit theft of cars. If somebody steals your car and there's no registration, no plates, even if you find it, how do you prove it's yours? And now the problem is when they abuse it. So I don't agree with license plates being renewed every year. That's just a hidden tax. That's why I tell you DMV fees are taxes. Because once I register a car, there is no reason to ever charge me anything for that ever again. The car is registered, you have the records, you have the plate on the car. It should be one and done. Now, when the car changes hands, yes, that makes sense. You redo the registration process. But, of course. That's actually pretty easy. Hang on, I'll show you. You could, of course, just manually do it. But easier is to do it in the slicer. So what you do is, now you have to make sure if you have multiple processes, all your processes have to have the same thing. So you're going to find something, you should have something similar in Cura and Prusa Slicer. But here we have temperature, and we have heated bed. So let's say you want to find out how many layers your thing is, or just decide where you want to turn it off. So for example, if I have a heat bed that does not require a heat bed that does not require heat for the object to stick, what I'll do is, for example, I'll do a, I don't know, layer 30. I'll turn the temperature down to 55. I'll add that. And then say layer 35, like 32. It depends on how big the object is. I'll turn it down to 50. I'll add that. At layer 34, I'll turn it down to 45. Add that. And at layer 36, I'll turn it down to 40. Add that. And then at layer 40, I'll just turn it off. Because at 40, you're close enough to ambient, you can just turn it off. And there, that will gradually turn down the heat so it doesn't shock the part. And then once you get to 40, the next step, you can just turn it off. You don't have to keep graduating down because that's close enough to room temperature. And that's what I do. I do just that. I just add that to my G-code, and that will get programmed right into the G-code, so I don't have to do a thing. Now, of course, you can also do that manually on the printer. Just, once you've established that the part is stuck down, just slowly turn down the heat bed temperature. Come back in 5 minutes, turn it down again. Back in 5 minutes, turn it down again. And now, of course, if you are using a heat-sensitive bed, glass, silicon dioxide, PEI, PEX, if you're using anything like that, you cannot turn... Yeah, I got that to put on top of the monitors. You cannot turn off the heat because your part will release. Okay? So this only works with build tack, fake tack type surfaces. Surfaces where the model will stay attached to a cold bed. So if you have a auto-release type surface, you cannot turn off the heat. You have to leave the heat on. I do. I have a channel for mindofnerisse.com. Actually, I don't think I have a domain name, but it's Mind of Nerisse. It's all about politics and crap like that, and my TikTok channel, of course. And then I have Life of Nerisse for homestead stuff and stuff like that. And I'm working on a gadgets channel now. I just posted the first video. I'll be posting another one hopefully this weekend. But that's to deal with all the stuff. Like I just got these amazing... Oh, you guys can't see me. I just got these awesome Jabra headphones, earbuds. These things are freaking amazing. So far, I've had bad luck with expensive earbuds. The cheaper $20, $30 earbuds have so far been superior to even $200 earbuds. I think these are like $140 or something like that, $130. These are amazing. And not only that, they look great. They have that Cartier leather type, khaki cream color with a little reflective logo. And they sound fantastic. These are the 85Ts. Nice, clean, evenly distributed sound profile. Nothing muddy. Bass isn't blown out. And they look great. They just look nice. I mean, I give Jabra huge kudos for that. They did a good job on these. They look elegant. They look professional. They look nice. They sound great. They got decent features. USB-C. And they even have Qi charging. So there's a wireless coil in here. You can drop it onto a Qi wireless charger and charge them up that way too. Really nice. My favorites, though, are toss-up now. These are now equal to my other favorites. I have a pair of U-Greens. They're $30. Sometimes 20 on sale, and they sound as good as $200 earbuds. Never tried a pair of Raycons yet. Yeah, the U-Greens are amazing. The absolutely well-balanced, clean sound. They connect every time. Good battery life. The battery box is nice. Everything about them's good. The U-Greens are amazing. That's one of those. That's like finding the 777s on that site. The Are they? Hang on. Let me get a link. Come on. Seriously? What in the world is it with Firefox crashing all the time? This latest version of Firefox is just junk. Very annoying. No, brand new. You can buy them brand new for that price. I'm going to get you a link right now. Hang on. It's going to blow your mind. Oh, yeah. They're on sale right now for, what is that? For $28. On sale for $28 with the discount. Hey, 106 pounds for a 3D printer is a good deal. That link there is the U greens. You will not regret buying those. They're amazing. They truly are amazing. Although those look different. I wonder if they. Oh, I didn't know they had noise canceling. Huh? I never knew they had noise canceling built in. Maybe that's part of why they're so good. I just assumed at the price that they didn't have noise canceling. Huh. Well, you learn something new, huh? But those are they're so amazing that when they had them on sale for like $22 once, I bought an extra pair. They're that good. They're just fantastic. Had to get a new battery for the laptop. Wow, a pallet too for 320 pounds? Jesus, that's a what, 400 US? I'd be trying to scrounge up to get that. Because those things are expensive. Is it the Pro model or the base model? No, there's a coupon code on the listing. You just check the checkbox to apply the coupon, and you get 30% off. But those earbuds, they're amazing. They're just amazing. Now, if you want something a bit nicer looking, they sound just as good, but they cost a lot more. Some people just don't like ordering, no name stuff like that. Okay. I think they're 85T. Yeah, I think those are it. Yep, those are it. You can get these in the cream color, the copper black color, or like a titanium black color. I prefer the cream color. These are $229 a pair. Those are the Jabras. If you're going into a suit and tie environment and you want some earbuds that just look nice, those are nice. But you're going to pay for it. Hell yeah. It's a decent build size. That's like 250 by 250 by 250, I think. That is one of those fake trees. So it's got LED lights throughout it. So you set it up, and it's like a little nightlight kind of thing. It looks like a fake tree, and it's got little LEDs on it. I had to stick it up there because the cat keeps tearing all the leaves off of it. I'd come out and find more leaves sitting on the floor because he's just tearing them off. It's one of the things I got from that review site. And you can get those, however, you can get them used for like $200. What are you tearing apart, cat? I hear you. Now, if you want punch, if you like punchy bass, you want skull candies. Skull candies are good for bass. But if you want a balanced sound palette, get the Jabras or the U greens. as of right now, those are the only ones I'll suggest. And the skull candies if you want skull candies. Yeah, I'm trying to clean up. I got a big mess here and I need to clean it up. You got it. Yeah, I'll probably do the stream until like 1. Nice short stream. People who rewatch it later will enjoy that. Well, I finally got some good glass coming in. I got a decent deal on a 70-200 2.8 Mark II lens. So, you know, it's going to take me a while to pay that off. But, you know, I need good glass. And 70-200 is optimal for most of what I do. Both the landscape stuff and the rocketry stuff. It's a very, very fast lens. So hopefully I'll have that within a week. Coming from Japan, I think. You can get used lenses from Japan quite a bit cheaper, and they take care of their stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. Hey, Joseph. Got this little body camera. Yes, I get gig work doing property photography. So they pay me $125 per property. And normally I don't do them on Wednesdays for obvious reasons. But they really needed this by Thursday. So I'm running out today to get the pictures for them. So, and they're paying a little extra. So yeah, I'll do that. Normally I get 110, so they're gonna give me 125 each. And I take the drone out, take some aerial shots, and you know, there's a bit more to it than just taking pictures. You know, I got to verify the plot of land, make sure I'm actually looking at the right piece of property. They send me GIS maps and stuff like that. And tree decimators, not trimmers. They see a tree and go, "I see the enemy. I will tear him limb from limb." And I describe the property. I check for utilities. Can you get power? Can you get water? How's cell phone reception? What's the view look like? Is the ground buildable? You know, any issues with the ground? Any issues with access? You know, I've been to some properties where four-wheel drive is mandatory. Like, literally, you cannot get to the property without four-wheel drive. But, you know, stuff like that. And I give a synopsis. I describe how to access the property, what's near it, what resources are near it. You know, okay, yeah, there's no power, there's no water, but most likely it's well water and a septic. And then there's power at the property, you know, 1,000 feet that way, so it shouldn't be a problem getting power. Oh, here's a Quest communications box for an underground cable, so you might have fiber or cable here. Maybe, maybe not. You know, things like that. I find all that information because any of that information could increase the value of the property. And so I type up a report. I collate all the pictures. I even edit. Oh, I can show you. I don't think there's anything proprietary in this. So, photo job. Pictures. So I went out and, you know, here's the property. Just an empty plot of land. This one had nothing on it. This is 5 acres. This shows you what the ground looks like, what kind of vegetation there is. No. Thankfully, those properties were actually too far away for the leaf. So I took the pickup truck, and it's a good thing because they didn't tell me it was 4x4 required. I never would have got the leaf anywhere near those properties. Well, this is just empty land, so it faces whatever way you want it to face. So I also do overlays. So, for example, I had to explain that these ruts are pretty deep. So if you're coming in a car, they're passable, but you want to ride on top of the ruts. But it's only to here. Up here where this house is, up here in the corner. Once you get to past that, it's maintained road. You know, it's dirt road, but it's maintained road. Here's the nearest property to the place. That place is abandoned. But you can see, okay, so there's probably no natural gas because they got propane. And there's power right here. And then right over here, there's a Quest pole. So you can see the road gets a little bit better here. Here's the Quest pole. So that's about a quarter mile. So in theory, there might be broadband there. Here's another house. This one's being lived in. It's in good condition. There's the maintained road, Belgian Street. Here's the property from the adjacent property on the other side. And then the nearest paved road is about 2 miles away. Here's some drone shot aerial footage. So my car is right about in the middle. So you can see here, that's the property. So here's without the overlay, with the overlay. So that's the property that you'd be buying. That's 5 acres. That's nice. I'd love to have 5 acres. Then here again is with and without overlay. Thankfully, there was adjacent properties here and here that made it really easy to pick it out. Pahrump! What's his name? Bill Sandin from Balsa Machining Service. He lives in Pahrump, Nevada. Yeah, it's all desert, yeah. The adjacent properties. I always mix up east and west out here because I'm from the East Coast. So for me, the ocean is east. So here I know the ocean's that way, so I always call it east, but I got to remember it's the Pacific Ocean, that's west. Here's the adjacent property next to it. Neighboring properties. Overview of the whole area. And there's the property relative. So just helps them. It makes it easier for them to sell it when you can give them all this information in details. So that's what I do. And then I upload all the pictures to them and then they pay me. If I ever come into any money, if I ever come into, 50 grand or something like that, I'd like to buy a slightly nicer property, 2.5 to 5 acres, slightly larger house. Mobile home's fine. I would like to get above 2,000 square feet. I'd like to have a house wide enough that you have actual rooms instead of just being a line of rooms going down the length. I'd like to have the rooms go both directions. And of course, if I buy a $50,000 house, it's going to need a lot of work, but that's where selling this comes in hand. I sell this house to pay for the new one and do all the renovation it needs. It'd be nice to be slightly larger and slightly more outside of town. Like, I'd like to be like a half mile outside of town. Still close enough to get Comcast, but far enough to be a little bit more out of town. Have a little more quiet. Although it is quiet here. There's no noise. You could barely hear Interstate 40 even if you're out back. But if you want more land here in town, it costs a lot more. I don't know. I have no idea what they would sell that for. No clue. $50,000, $60,000. That land is worth more because it's improved. It's perfectly flat. It's only 10 miles from, not even 10 miles, it's about 10 minutes from Moriarty. It has utilities close, so there's utilities there. So you're going to be able to get things like phone, internet, electricity. Some of the other properties, like the four-wheel drive property, you're talking, probably $20,000 just to get electricity to the property. Because, not only is the nearest electric pole a couple of miles away, but it's four-wheel drive required territory. So you might even have to actually improve the road to the property to even get the electric company to run power to the property. And then, of course, you got to dig a well. That's going to cost you $15,000 at least. You got to put a septic tank. That's another $15,000. So it can add up pretty quick. Now, I mean, as far as properties go, that's still pretty cheap. I mean, you pay 50 grand for the land, and well, that land would probably be like 20 grand. I have no idea. they probably haven't determined that yet. They're probably going to determine that based on the pictures and stuff. So I have no idea what that's going to sell for, and they don't tell me. I know, I heard Tupac passed away. That sucks. I got to get my Tupac shirt out. This is my S&P shirt. Scrap and Pallet Man. I like him. But yeah, I heard Tupac died. That sucks. For those who don't know, Tupac is a toucan. That's why they call him Tupac. You know, play on the toucan. You know, the bird with the big colorful beak. So there's somebody online who, well, going off-grid is actually expensive. It costs a lot of money. Most people think, you know, off-grid is easy. Well, okay, if you want to... If you live in a mild climate and you don't care about creature comforts, so you don't care about having power at night, having air conditioning, heat is not a problem. You can do propane, wood burning. I mean, if you don't care about modern amenities, yes, you can off-grid that. I saw people move trailers out there, and it's like, how the hell did you tow this out here? Like, how did... I just made it through that road with my 4x4. How did you get a 40-foot trailer out here? But they do. And, you know, they have power. Those people have power. But there was another family out there who had no power. They bought a piece of land. It was right next to one of the properties I was photographing. I don't have pictures of it handy. I moved them off the hard drive. But it was a little easier to get to this property because the roads were somewhat maintained, except for the last, you know, quarter mile. You have no phone, no internet, no power except what you can make, no water except what you can capture or haul in. Okay, you know, living off grid is a lot harder than some people think. You know, there is no such thing as for a while. You're either capable of it or you're not. And 99.999% of today's citizens are not capable of it. They, you know, you think, oh yeah, the nostalgia of living off the grid. You have no idea. I mean, it's hard. I mean, the question is, housing is not an issue. You can bring in a trailer, and you can live in a trailer. It's not that bad. You can have power. You can run a generator. But that's going to cost you a lot. I mean, even for a low power consumption, you're looking at, you know, we're talking enough to run like a microwave once in a while, you know, power lights, you know, charge your phone, power a small computer, you know, small stuff. You know, you can do that with, you know, a 2,000 watt inverter generator, a nice quiet inverter generator. You can get them pretty affordably. Well, yeah, bulldozer, no problem. And so if you're okay with that limited amount of power, then yeah, you can do that. It'll probably cost you probably 2 gallons a day in fuel. Maybe. The best way personally would be to small solar and battery, and then a generator as a backup to the solar and battery when you don't get enough sunlight. Down here at least, that would be the way to go. Because like you could put, you know, a couple $100 in solar panels on the roof of the RV. Now keep in mind, that's no heat, no air conditioning, you know, no microwave. Well, you could probably, when you turn on the generator, run the microwave. You could do that. But you can run a stove with propane, you know, get a couple of 100-pound propane tanks. You would drive into town with them, and you'd get them filled, and you would bring them back out, because nobody's delivering propane there. So yeah, you could do it. And you would have lights. You know, you could charge, you know, a phone, you know, charge up gadgets, stuff like that. No problem. You could do that. But you're not going to have air conditioning. Although out here, you probably could do air conditioning during the day. If you got a little window unit, you're only talking 500 watts. 455 watts for a little 5,000 BTU unit. You can run that off of a single deep cycle battery and you know, like, you know, two 360-watt solar panels. That'd be enough to run that. But, of course, not at night. You know, the battery's not for running it at night. You would need 15 batteries to run an air conditioner at night. But that one battery is enough to give you, like, you know, 30 or 40 minutes of runtime. So when clouds come over, it doesn't just turn off. And, well, living with parents wasn't cheap. You just didn't have to pay for it. But yeah, you could do it. But you would be giving up a lot of modern amenities. Your biggest issue out here actually is going to be water. So can you collect enough water? Well, the problem is you have a tiny home. That means small square footage of roof area to capture water from. If there's a creek nearby and you can process and filter that water, sure. Otherwise, you're hauling in water. Do you have the ability to haul that in? You'd be surprised how much water a person uses. I mean, even on a light month, like a really light month, like we're showering twice a week, okay? And we'll go down to showering once a week. You're still going to use about 400 gallons a month per person. And that's including, you know, drinking this kind of stuff, which if we weren't drinking this, we'd be drinking water. Well, when you're a kid, that's a lot easier. Exactly. But and then you have to go to work. You need money. You got to pay the taxes on that property. You have to buy fuel. Let's say you use 1 gallon of gasoline a day. That's 30 gallons a month. And so now you got, you know, $100 a month for gasoline and maintenance on that generator. Ideally, you would want to not use the generator once a day. Ideally, you'd want just enough batteries to be able to run things like lights throughout the night, so that when the sun goes down, you go to bed. You know, you can maybe stay up and watch a movie on the phone if you get reception, or laptop. You know, not like a laptop like this, like a Ultrabook. You know, something that's low power. And then you wouldn't need to run the generator. You would just, you know, the battery would handle your little electric water pump if you turn on the water on the sink, and it would handle your you know, lights and charging a phone, stuff like that. And then once the sun came back up, you'd recharge your batteries. Now, if you had enough solar panels, for example, if you put up, you know, 1,500 watts worth of solar panels, you could run a small microwave in broad daylight during the day on solar power. You would have enough amps coming in from those panels to do that. And the nice thing out here is, you know, the thing out here is that you can get solar panels pretty cheap if you know how to do it yourself. You know, the charge controllers are still pretty expensive. You're looking at $200 for a decent quality charge controller, you know, like a 30 amp. I don't know how deep they are, but from what I understand, it's $12,000 to $15,000 per attempt. I understand they're very deep because we're on top of a mountain. So you got to go through mountain to get to water. Well, you got to remember, you're living off grid. There are no fast food places. There is none. The nearest fast food place is 30 miles away. The nearest store is a very tiny little grocery store, and it's 12 miles away. And you know, you can get, like, you know, a half a gallon of milk and some, you know, tasty cakes and some beef jerky. You know, it's not even an actual grocery store. It's more like a gasoline convenience store, but no gas. So, you know, when you're living off grid like that, you'd be surprised, you know. And I was thinking about trying to build an off-grid house, a small one, like 2 10-by-10 rooms. I doubt it. I doubt there's any gold here. I would like to put a small cabin out back and make it completely off-grid. So, you know, small batteries, solar panels, everything off-grid. And see how practically I can make... well, the idea for me is not so much cheap, because I have no money, so it would be very cheap. The thing for me would be... how many creature comforts could I enable while still being off-grid? You know, how comfortable could I make a place that's off-grid on a budget? So that would be the fun part for me. Well, the thing is, the hard part for me, why it would be difficult, would be legality. For example, I'm allowed to put containers on the property. I'm allowed to build 10 by 10 sheds, but I'm not allowed to live in them. They have to be utility sheds. They can't be living space because we have stupid zoning rules. You know, God forbid if somebody builds an affordable house, right? And, well, I am a prepper, but I'm a different kind of prepper. I'm what I call a general life prepper. I prep for bad times. No, off-grid means no utilities running to the property. So your internet would be wireless, your cell phone, okay? Off-grid means you don't have the electric company running an electric line to your house. You don't have the water company running a water line to your house. You don't have the sewer company running a sewer line to your house. That's off-grid. Off-grid doesn't mean no utilities. Off-grid means no public utilities. Could you please explain briefly about the emergency power battery? What do you mean? Oh, really? The Good Life, huh? Let me write that down. 70s TV show, The Good Life. But what I want is I want to make a... Well, what do you mean I use? I have a lot of batteries. I have batteries from, you know, tool batteries to little, you know, lithium iron phosphate batteries to, you know, the rechargeable batteries that I use for my USB gadgets. You know, like this. I have the power bricks. Like that there's a 288 watt hour battery. Oh, I don't have any batteries for the house. Oh, no. I don't have that kind of money. Put it this way. I can, right now, if I had the money, I don't have it, so I can't do it. If I had the money, I could buy enough solar panels to completely solar power this house for $900. There's a guy who has used, taken out of service, 175 watt solar panels for $15 a piece if I buy them by the pallet. So 30 at a time. Hey, DeWitt. Now, in theory, I could afford the $900. I could put it on a credit card, low interest, pay it off. But the panels would sit here doing nothing because I don't have the means to hook them up to do anything. Because you need a lot more than just solar panels. Now, if you're just trying to run a small RV off solar panel, that I could wire up. But like I can take one of the solar panels, put it into a charge controller, and then connect that to this, and I'd have 120 watt hours. This would be enough to run, you know, a couple of LED lights and charge your phone overnight each night. So you could put this in an off-grid cabin and have lighting and whatnot. But this is not enough to run a high-powered device, even for a short time. Like this can't run a microwave. You would need 10 of these to run a microwave. Because one of the reasons these batteries are affordable is because they have a low C rating. So they hold a decent amount of power. Okay, there's two ways to measure power here. You have power as in capacity. How much juice does this hold? And then I am going to solar power the bus eventually. And then you have power as in how hard can I hit you? Okay? So capacity would be how long can I run? Power would be how much grunt do I have? And so, for example, to charge my phone, I only need 18 watts. And that's for a fast charge. I could charge that phone at 5 watts if I wanted to, but for a normal fast charge, I need 12 to 18 watts. This can put out 120 watts, so this can charge my phone. But the microwave requires 600 watts. Now you might think, okay, you can run your microwave for 10 minutes on 120 watts. But no, because while this has the capacity to run the microwave for 10 minutes, it doesn't have the power to actually drive the microwave. And yeah, I got a whole bunch of battery banks. I got dozens of these. So this is a little USB battery. This one actually has a solar panel. So this one can actually solar charge. And because it has 3 panels, it can actually charge in a reasonable amount of time. And you can even separate the battery from the panel. So here's the battery. And then it plugs into the panel. So it's kind of cool. Where are those pogo pins? There they are. And so this would, for example, be enough for you to off-grid your phone. You just put this outside to charge up, and then once a day you go out and plug in your phone. If you use a good phone like I do. So, for example, one of the reasons I like this LG V60 is that it's got a 5,000 milliamp battery in it. This thing is a monster for battery power. And, well, you can actually run a microwave on a lot less power. So my microwave is a 1200 watt microwave, but I can tell it to run at 50%, so 600 watts. Exactly. You might have 10 gallons, but you can only deliver those gallons at a certain speed depending on your output orifice. So electricity is the same thing. You need to account for both how much capacity do you need and how much demand power do you need. This is great for capacity, but not for demand power. Demand power requires higher quality cells inside, which cost a lot more money. Now, the good thing about this, though, is that it will last a very long time. This will last 10 plus years, while a regular lithium-ion battery is good for like 3. So that's nice. So what you would have to do in this case, for example, is double up. You bastard, I did not give you permission to do that. So for example, here's 2 6 amp hour batteries. So I can daisy chain 2 6 amp hour batteries together and increase my overall output. So what, does this even tell me what its output is capable of? Yes, there is some stuff here. So this is 77 watt hours. Max discharge current 6 amps. So this can put out a maximum of 6 amps. That is 6 times 12. That's 72 watt hours. So this battery can only put out 72 watt hours. But what if I need 100 watt hours? Then I can't use this. But if I take 2 of them and run them in parallel, I get the same 12 volts, but now I have 140 watt hours. Now I can run my 100 watt hour device. That's what you have to do. You have to parallel. You either need a battery with a high enough C rating. No. Parallel. Okay. Parallel and series increases power. Series increases voltage, while parallel increases capacity. The advantage of going series is that the higher the voltage you use, the more efficient energy transfer is. So, for example, to transfer, a lot of power at 12 volts, you need a cable like this. You need a really expensive, lots of copper cable. But if you take that 12 volt battery and put 10 of them together, so you have 120 volts, now you can use a cable this thick. So the higher the voltage, the more efficient energy transfer is. So the reason you would want your solar system to be a higher voltage is to reduce how expensive the cable you need to go from the solar panels to your battery bank in the house. And my understanding of this is very crude, so I might not be 100% correct, but I am pretty close on that. Yes, parallel gives you more amps, series gives you more volts. So if I were to take, let's say this battery is 100 watt hour capable of demand power, so roughly 10 amps. If I were to put 2 of these in parallel, I could now draw 20 amps. If I were to put 2 in series, I would still be limited to 10 amps. I would still have twice the capacity, but I would still be limited to 10 amps. Because in series, it's whatever the limit of one cell is. So basically, you want to You want to do series until you get to the right voltage for transferring the power. Then you want to go parallel to increase your power capacity. So that's why you'll see a series and parallel together pack sometimes. And I'm waiting for spring to get a couple of batteries. I'd like to get a couple of batteries just so I can start experimenting with solar, because I have a couple of 100-watt panels, so I can start dicking around with solar power. You know, I've got controllers, I've got panels. What I don't have is batteries. I do have these jump boxes, and they can solar input, but I'm using them now. When people upgrade a system, they'll sell the old batteries that came out of service, so I can get, you know, used 100 amp hour batteries for about $75 a pop. I can afford to buy 2 or 3 of them. Exactly, that's the advantage here. I have so much power. Like right now, I'm actually thinking about using my stimulus check to buy another mini split for the house. I found out that electric is actually cheaper than pellets. I just posted a Life of Nerys video, a 20-minute video where I explain all of it in the math. But it turns out that we have something out here I wasn't aware of called time of use power. And time of use power means for 15.5 hours a day, I only pay 11 cents a kilowatt. And for 8.5 hours a day, I pay 20 cents a kilowatt. So if I only turn on the high-powered devices during the off-peak 15.5 hours, I save a significant amount of money. And it's enough that it's actually cheaper than the pellet stove. So, for example, what I want to do, see, the problem is that mini split is only 12,000 BTUs. That is not enough to heat this house. I need like 30,000 BTUs to heat this house. And that pellet stove puts out like 35,000, 40,000 BTUs, which is why it's capable of heating this entire house. Well, if I upgraded to like a dual head 24,000 BTU mini split, what I would do is I would leave one head here. I would have him reinstall this mini split into my bedroom and just don't turn it on unless I need it. And then I'd put the second head at the end of the hallway aimed at Michelle and a third bedroom's door. So if they left those doors open, it would blow right into those rooms. And nice. $25 is pretty cheap. What are your views on the Harry and Meghan interview? I have no idea. What's the Harry and Meghan interview? Another Princess Diana car accident. Didn't she get in? The House approved it? Like it passed the House? No, I never finished the shed. But I got incredibly lucky. We got almost no snow this winter, so the wood hasn't been destroyed. I got very, very lucky. I was actually thinking about that. I wanted to run ant miners as, you know, heaters because they generate income. But the problem is that doesn't work for me, because for me, they would burn $20 in electricity or $30 in electricity and give me $9 in income. So not worth it. But yeah, if I had cheaper power, I was thinking, you know, can I run ant miners just as heaters? And don't forget taxes. You're going to have to pay 20% on that $9. Yeah, he said he's going to sign it right away. You know, hey, we can talk policies and stuff like that as long as we're not... When I say we don't talk politics, I mean we don't talk Democrats, Republicans, and how they hate each other. Okay? But one thing I can say is that I think this is the first bill in 50 years that is almost entirely for the people. Like, almost everything in this bill is going to help people who are low income. And that's a freaking first in a long time. They need to get the minimum wage done. They have to figure out some way of getting that minimum wage done. No, I did not. If you can find a link to it, send me a link. No, not here, because going through this again is hard. Yeah, older ant miners are dirt cheap. I actually bought two because they're like, what do you call it? They're icebreakers. They're talking pieces. They just freaking look cool. I got it for $30. I don't even think it works, but I got it just because it just looks so freaking cool. I just want to put that on a shelf. And people go, "What is that?" But I don't know. I have no idea. Just don't forget, you're going to have to pay taxes, and you need to make sure you're making at least enough to pay for the electricity. And so, if I were to put a dual head mini split in here, I'm assuming a 24K dual split mini head would be 12K each head. Yeah, that's called a heat pump. Well, they were supposed to have the $15 minimum wage in this bill, but it got bumped out because the proletariat said that it violated the Byrd rule, and the Democrats didn't. Now, the Democrats could have overrode the proletariat, but they didn't want to do that. They wanted to follow the rules, so they abided by the proletariat's decision, and they took out the minimum wage. Well, that's just it, though. It's only half-price heat compared to resistance heaters. A heat pump is far more efficient. So, for example, that heat pump right there is a 12,000 BTU heat pump, and it costs me $103 a month to run it. And it would cost me $70 a month to run it if I turn it off for 8 hours a day. So the way this works is that it's it's 6.2 cents a kilowatt and 15 cents a kilowatt. But in reality, it's 11.2 cents a kilowatt and 20 cents a kilowatt. No, you could put a heat pump in your rental. It's very expensive, though. You're talking, a lot of money. They do make portable parliamentarian. You're right, parliamentarian. I thought I was saying it wrong, but it was close. You can get portable AC units. The portable AC units on wheels. They have two hoses, so they're actually proper heat pumps. You can get portable heat pump units, but they're very expensive. So recouping your cost, and if you're in a rental, you're probably a small enough square footage that you're probably not spending all that much on heat anyway. Depending on I'm assuming an apartment. If it's a smallish apartment, and if you're surrounded on all sides by other apartments, it could be very efficient to heat such a place. Thank you, John. Exactly. Well, they would have had to override the parliamentarian, and they didn't want to do that. Oh, townhouse, okay. I'm surprised you can't get one installed. You should ask the landlord. He'd probably approve it since it would increase the value of the property. Depending on if it already has central heat and AC or not, I don't know. But I think they also make window units, so you don't have to put any holes in the wall. If you're having a clog issue, make sure to check out the compression fitting. If that's failing, it'll allow your PTFE tube to keep pulling away from the nozzle. And because we desperately need a minimum wage increase. The minimum wage today is $2.28 an hour, and that's ridiculous. Even $15 is only $4.73 an hour. I mean, I don't know about you, but asking for a $1.63 raise after 40 years is not asking a lot. And there's this one guy who posted a TikTok video saying, you can't even buy a studio. You can't even rent a studio in Los Angeles for $15 an hour, but you can afford a small house in Mississippi for $15 an hour. He's trying to say that there's no point in having a national minimum wage because the cost of living is different in different parts of the country. And I was like, you understand? You just made a case for a $15 minimum wage, right? You just said that $15 an hour is not enough to live in LA, and it's also not enough to live in Mississippi, but it's almost enough to live in Mississippi. I'm assuming you picked Mississippi because it's a very cheap state. I was like, so if you can't even survive in Mississippi on $15 an hour, I'd call that a pretty good start for a minimum wage increase. But what the problem is, we use cheat. Okay, I'm probably using the wrong word because this word tends to have a negative connotation to it. As a gamer, it doesn't have a negative connotation, not really. But in life, we have to use cheat codes. And oh, for your 107, you going for your 107 cert? The like for example, if you have to get a roommate to afford an apartment, that's a cheat code. If you have to skip health insurance because you can't afford it, that's a cheat code. Okay, so it doesn't count if you're using a cheat code. Minimum wage is supposed to be a living wage, which means a family, not a person, a family with one job should be able to support itself. And that would include housing, utilities, and health insurance, and a basic standard of living. At this point, I'd be happy for a minimum wage that's enough for one person to have that. Now, keep in mind, I don't live on minimum wage. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have a minimum wage job. I'm self-employed, so I make less than minimum wage. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. The point is, minimum wage doesn't even affect me. I have no skin in the game. All right, as far as direct skin, meaning I'm not working a minimum wage job. Part of the whole reason I do this as a self-employed job is so that I don't have to go suck some corporate dick for minimum wage. You know, if I'm going to make minimum wage or less, at least it's on my terms. You know, I can improve my status. I can't improve my status at the corporate job, which is $2.28. Let me show you. Okay, a good example of this. All right. My last electric bill, I used 1,628. You can bring up a calculator if you want to do this. I used 1,628 kilowatts. My rate before I switched to time of use was 13.2 cents a kilowatt. So 1628 times 0.132. That's $214. But my electric bill was $290. So I'm not actually paying 13.2 cents a kilowatt. That's how much it costs me to generate a kilowatt. What actually matters? Well, what matters is what they charge to my credit card. That's what matters. Nothing else matters. The only thing that matters is what I actually have to pay. So if I take what I paid, $287, and divide it by 1628, I'm actually paying 17.6 cents per kilowatt. That's the difference between generated and delivered. Okay? So for income, for dollars, let's see here. Let's call it 7.25. Convert to ounce. Okay, so $7.25 in 2020 US dollars is $9.37 in Australian dollars. Well, you're saying, well, you're getting paid $9 an hour. No, you're not. You're getting paid $9 in Australian, or $7.25 in US 2021. So why am I calling it US 2021? Because what did we just learn from my electric bill? It doesn't matter what you're charged, it matters what you pay. What you pay is what matters. Well, with wages, what matters is buying power. How much can you buy with that? I'm going to show you something. You think gold's expensive? You think gold is going up in price? It's not. Gold hasn't changed in value in 70 years. There is a website you can bring up. You can follow along with me if you want. It's called usinflationcalculator.com. What am I thinking? I can post a link. US inflation calculator. Okay? Bring that up on your computer. So the typical example used is 1950. I don't know why it's 1950. That's just the typical example used. What was a new car worth in 1950? So, new car price 1950. New car price in 1950, $1,510. Okay? New car price today. How much is a new car price? Average price 33, but you can get a new car for about 22. We're cheap, we're poor, we're minimum wage, so cheap car. About $22,000. So, in 1950, you want to buy a new car. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take $1,500 in cash in 1950, and I want you to stick that in a box. And then I want you to take $1,500 worth of gold, and I want you to stick that in a box and bury it under your property. Okay? I do. I just switched to that, and it's going to save me a ton of money. It's called time of use. I never heard of that before because I lived in Pennsylvania that didn't have that. Here they have it, and it saves you a lot of money. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, you have $1,500 in cash, $1,500 in gold. They are worth the same amount. Either one of them will let you buy a brand new car in 1950. So, you're going to bury that in the ground. It's now 2020. And you unbury your box with your 2 brand new cars in it. Can you buy a brand new car at the $1,500? Ha! That won't even cover a down payment. But what happens with the gold? Well, the gold's not worth more. The gold will still buy a brand new car. Because if you take $1,500 and adjust it for inflation, that's $16,370. I could buy a Mitsubishi Mirage for $14,000. I could buy a Chevy Spark for $16,000. So, the gold you bury, that's a 7D. That's my 7D. I believe his name was, please tell me I'm remembering this correctly. I think his name was John. He gave me this camera. I bought the lens, but he gave me the camera. He had a couple of old bodies that he was getting rid of, and they weren't worth much to him. And when he heard what happened to, it was on the channel here, when he heard what happened to my brother stealing all my camera equipment, he gave me this 7D. So he's freaking awesome. And so the gold you stuck in that box will still buy a brand new car. The money, no, it's okay. Interruptions are fine. We are totally about going all over the place here. That's kind of our thing here. The money you put in that box will not buy a brand new car. It'll barely give you a down payment. Okay? So wait a minute. What happened? Well, inflation happened. All right? Yeah, I love this camera. I really miss my 5D. I had a 5D Mark II, and I missed that full frame sensor. I mean, how many cameras can you do an indoor shot with a 200mm lens handheld and have it be clear? Yeah, 5D Mark II with a full frame sensor, baby. Although this is a little faster. Awesome. They're not that hard to fix once you figure it out. So, if the gold could buy a new car in 1950, and that same amount of gold can still buy a new car in 2020, well, the gold hasn't gone up in value because the buying power of the gold hasn't changed. Well, no, it's worth this much. No! Stop looking at the dollar amount. Look at the buying power. Gold, 1950, new car. Same amount of gold, 2020, new car. Well, the car's not worth more. Therefore, the gold's not worth more. So what happened? Your money is worth less. So you need more of it to equal the same amount. So when you talk about money, you have to convert the value of the money into buying power. Just like you have to convert from Canadian to US to Australian to Japanese yen. You have to convert. So minimum wage today is not $7.25. It's $7.25 in 2021 dollars. Now, I'm going to choose 1980. The reason I'm going to choose 1980 is because the 80s is when Reagan started that bullshit trickle-down economics that ruined this country. Literally, trickle-down economics is the reason this country is fucked. So, I'm using 1980 for that reason. Now, most people don't realize you can take this inflation calculator and you can reverse it. So, instead of saying 1980 to 2021, I can say 2021 to 1980. This will tell me what today's dollar has in buying power, which is what actually matters. $7.25 is a $2.27 minimum wage. Because even though you're getting $7.25 in fancy little bills, they're actually only worth $2.27. Why do you think rent is $1,200? Why do you think a Big Mac is $4 and a meal is $9 or $10? Why do you think gas is $3 a gallon? Why do you think milk is $4 a gallon? Those things have not gotten more expensive. In fact, we are artificially suppressing the price of those things by increasing efficiency and automation and mass producing. So in reality, those things should be even more expensive. So we're suppressing the price. Well, the reason those things are going up in price is not because they cost more. They don't. They cost less. It's because your money is worth less. So if we made a $15 minimum wage, you can do this yourself with me. That's actually only $4.70. So your buying power at $15 is only $4.70. That's a $1.60 raise in 40 years. That's a $1.60 raise over a time period that is more than half of you have been alive. Probably half of you are less than 40 years old. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at supply and demand. And just make something. You are so close to the truth, you have no idea. You posted that as a meme joke, but it's actually true. Why do they suppress wages? There's actually a very logical reason why they suppress wages. It makes perfect financial sense when you think about it. As we make things cheaper, via automation, via mass production, via improvements in efficiency, via improvements in worker productivity, which is skyrocketing, by the way. Worker productivity has been climbing since like the 50s and has not let up. I'll show you a chart on that in a minute, and you'll see why. If in the past, minimum wage... Well, see, the problem is it depends on when you adjust it from. It's not enough to adjust it for inflation, because you also have to adjust it for CPI. You have to adjust it for the consumer price index, because we manipulate the effect of inflation by adjusting CPI. If you I can show you, hang on. US chart, wages, productivity. I should be able to find that. Here we go. There it is. So this is at epi.org, productivity-pay-gap. So if you notice, this is why I use 1980. Okay? This is 1980. This blue line, this dark blue line, is productivity in our workforce. The light blue line I'm sorry, Lightspeed. You're dead wrong. You are dead wrong. Inflation is 100% artificial. There is nothing natural about inflation. Economics is actually very easy. When you try to skullfuck people with economics, it gets complicated, but that's because you're making it complicated. In reality, it's simple. Okay, it's very simple. Your money has to be backed by something. In the past, it was a gold standard. We have this much gold, therefore we have this much money. Okay? Today, we don't use the gold standard. We have a fiat currency. Our currency is worth what we think it's worth. Now, that worth is still gold. Not real gold, but change gold to value. So if you add value to the economy and you increase the money supply of the economy, and every single one of those reasons is artificial. We do it on purpose, and I'll get to why we do it on purpose. Well, printing money is actually okay. Believe it or not, printing money does not cause inflation. You know, look at how much money we're spending with all these stimulus bills and stuff like that. There's no inflation. In fact, inflation is going down. They're worried about deflation because a non-backed monetary system does not work the way people normally think it does. As long as the rest of the economy, the rest of the world trusts your currency, you can maintain the perceived value of your currency. So you add value, you add money. Add value, add money. No inflation. The only time you get inflation is when you add money without adding value. That's when you get inflation. But it didn't. They dumped $6 trillion and there's no inflation because that $6 trillion is seen as increasing value. Consumer spending is going up. Debt's being paid off. The world economy sees that as an improvement in value. So there's no inflation. When you have wasteful spending, value goes stagnant while the money supply goes up, then you get inflation. Okay? So on this chart, if you can see here, now this is perfectly logical. If you understand, if you run a business, this makes sense to you. Okay? The more money you make, the more you can afford to pay. Well, yes, a lot of it is oil. A lot of it is oil, which is why we are switching to a imperialist style of government. That's why we have 700 military bases. We just randomly, well, the bill got passed today. The $1.9 trillion stimulus bill got passed today. Exactly. And we've killed people who wanted to sell it in non-US dollars. 1954, the democratically elected Shah of Iran threatened to stop selling oil in US dollars. We had him assassinated and we installed a stooge dictator. No, I'm talking about wasteful spending on an economic level, not on an individual level. So you can see here, up until just before the 80s here, just right at the top of the 70s here, right around 1975-ish. Yeah, right around 1974. Compensation to employees matched productivity. Okay? It matched it. You can see, look at the chart. From 1950 to 1970, and obviously it continues before then, productivity matches compensation. That's perfectly logical. If you run a business, that makes perfect sense. Now, in 1982 actually, we institute trickle-down economics. It had already been started. Businesses were already starting to push that way. It got legislated in 1982, kind of. They started doing things. There's not really a bill that says, we're trickle-down economics now, but that's kind of the direction we went. And you can see here that wages have basically stopped since the 1980s. Productivity has continued to climb at the same rate. If wages continued to match productivity, minimum wage would be $27 an hour today. So you have to adjust for both inflation and CPI. You have to maintain buying power. Basically, if your company does not give you a 2 to 3% raise every year, they're actually taking away your pay every year. They're reducing your pay every year. Well, yeah, we got into numbers that were so large that we switched to electronic. Like, what is it? 84% of our money is numbers in a computer. Only like 15% of our money is actual, cash in your hand. That's not cash, but I'm using that to represent cash. Now, the United States is still a powerhouse of an economics engine. So, our money has good strength. So why do we allow inflation? Because that's what's happening. We are allowing inflation. Well, there's a reason for that. If I take $1 and I double it to $2 without adding any value to the system, you say inflation. No, not true. That's not how it works. When I double this money does not exist in the economy yet. It's in my pocket. This came from the economy, so it exists, okay? This does not exist. It's stealth money. So the first time this money gets used, it still has the value pre-inflation, because the inflation doesn't occur until after you add the money. This is a gross simplification, okay? This is a very gross simplification. I'm dumbing it down to your level because that's about my understanding, okay? So I'm grossly simplifying this. But first use of the inflated currency still has full value. So let's say if I have $1 and I have $1 in value, what's this worth? It's worth, now remember, relative to this, you have $1 in value and you have $1 in money. They're called the same thing, but they're not. So if you have $1 in value and $1 in money, what's the money worth? The money's worth $1. If I have $1 in value and $2 in money, what's the money worth? Well, $2 in money, $1 in value, which means in value, each of these is only worth 50 cents. But if I'm the one printing the money, I get to spend this like it's worth $1. And then after I spend it, then the inflation occurs and the value of the money adjusts. Now they're worth both 50 cents each because I haven't increased the value. Remember, gross oversimplification. So the Federal Reserve, the banks, the wealthy people, when they inflate the currency, they get to spend it at full value. No, it's not. Historically, it has been shown that increases in wages have zero relevant impact on inflation or cost of goods. None. Zero. You can see that throughout history. Just look at every single time minimum wage goes up. There's no connection between the increase in minimum wage and the increase in any kind of cost or inflation. There's no connection between the two. Because when you raise the minimum wage, you're not raising the minimum wage. We have never once in the history of this country raised minimum wage. Remember what I told you. It's about buying power. You have to convert the currency. If we raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, if you compare that to 1980, it'll be the first time in history we raised the minimum wage. I do run a business, and I paid my employees $21 an hour because I sat down with those goddamn employees and we calculated what a living wage in southern New Jersey was. And we agreed a living wage was $21 an hour, and that's what I paid them. You don't have to, okay, maybe you as a small business have to raise your wages. All right? But that just means your business wasn't viable. Yeah, the margins on dildos are pretty good. Well, the thing is, I can only afford 2 employees. So that's how many I hired. If I had more work to be done, go to Nerys.com. The links are all there. That's my portal page. Here, okay, Lightspeed. Please also do not take offense at me displaying, rah, and stuff like that. I'm not mad at anybody. It's just a topic that needs to be discussed. So please don't take offense. And call me out if I say something offensive, because that's not right, period. If you're, okay, let's look at it this way. Let's say, now, again, this is a gross oversimplification, okay? It's a gross oversimplification. Yes, I have a lot of passion, but I need to make sure I don't move into trolling and insulting territory. I need to make sure I don't do that, because that's wrong no matter what. Unless you insult me, then I'm going to eat you. Let's say you're a restaurant, and your restaurant needs to buy spoons. You have found the cheapest vendor available for spoons. There's nobody cheaper. This is the cheapest source for spoons. Remember, gross oversimplification. This is an analogy, not literal. Okay? You found the cheapest source there is for spoons. Now, your best restaurant cannot operate without spoons. Let's assume you have to have spoons, that your business does not function without spoons. Okay? Now, Lightspeed, as a business owner, running this theoretical restaurant where you need spoons. The spoons are $1 a piece. You sit down with your accountant and you determine that in order for your business to be viable, in order for your business to work, you need the spoons for 75 cents a piece. But nobody's selling them for 75 cents a piece. They're all $1. That's the cheapest you can get. You've looked into making them yourself. You can't make it cheaper than they're making them. Do you have the right, Lightspeed, do you have the right to use the government's monopoly on violence to exert government authority to force the spoon manufacturer to sell them to you for 75 cents a piece in order to make your business viable? Do you have that right? Do you think that's a valid power you should have? Yes or no? I love sporks. Sporks are just cool. I have a couple titanium sporks just because. See you later, Robbie Mac. Robbie Mac, 48% of the country is living on minimum wage. There's 160 million people in the workforce. I don't know where you think 78 million people are going to get higher paying jobs. Exactly. Exactly. In fact, the government should have influence over businesses and their products. They should have the ability to protect that spoon manufacturer from being bullied by you to lower their cost. You can either afford the spoons or you can't. Okay? So I confirm for me, because I need a yes or a no answer. I don't need a willy-nilly answer. If you want to add an explanation to a yes or no, that's fine. But I need a yes or a no. Do you have the authority to exert the government's monopoly on violence to make the spoon manufacturer take less money for their spoons? Do you have that right? We're going to get to that in a minute, Lights. We're going to get to the reality and cost going up. We're going to start simple. Spoon manufacturer, $1. Your business is not viable unless you can get it for 75 cents. Do you have the right to use the government to force the spoon manufacturer? It's not a stupid question. Now, the fact that you're saying it's a stupid question means you understand what I'm getting at and you don't like where I'm going. Do you have the right to use the government to force the spoon manufacturer to give you the spoon for 75 cents? It's a simple question. Yes or no? I'm going to take that as a no. You don't think you have that right. Hi, kitty. So, let's expand it. The building you need is $300,000. Or you're leasing it. And the lease is $3,000 a month. But you can't afford more than $2,500 a month. Do you have the authority to use the government to force the landlord to charge less? Good. So that's a no. Time is 1300. So the answer is no. So we're good. Okay. Do you have the authority to use the government to force the electric company to sell you electricity for cheaper in order to make your business viable? Well, no, of course not. You don't have the right to force people to sell you the things that you need at a lower price. You can negotiate on an on a fair playing field, but you don't have the right to force someone else to give you what they have for less money. You don't have that right. We're not counting gouging. That's different. That's a different scenario. Okay? So why do you have the right to use the government to force people to give you their labor at under cost? Why is it not okay for you to force the spoon manufacturer? Yes, you do. They can't go elsewhere. That's the minimum wage. It's the minimum wage. They can't go anywhere else. There is no place else where the minimum wage is higher. Oh no, the last night after hours, actually this morning at like 9 a.m., it was up to 330. Woo! Yes, you do. Okay, this is hard to understand, but it makes sense once you actually understand it. You are indirectly forcing people to work for you for less than the cost of their labor. The minimum wage is supposed to be a living wage. Yeah, I know. I got another hour. It's supposed to be a living wage. A living wage is not defined as luxury. Okay? A living wage is the minimum necessary for a typical, normal, sane, reasonable person to survive. I know that, but we're not talking about you. We're talking about the 48% of the jobs that pay minimum wage. Okay? Literally, I mean, here. Where is that link that I had? Well, yes and no. The state is supposed to tell people what to do within the confines of the Constitution. The state is supposed to be a mediator. All right? Okay, so the state is not supposed to tell me what to do. So you disagree with the state saying it's illegal for me to stick you up with a gun in a dark alley and demand your wallet. No. A living wage is you can afford housing, health care, clothing, food, and a basic standard of living. That's a living wage. What you're talking about is slave wages. But, okay. I don't know why this is hard. That's great, and you're probably underpaying to some extent. Because remember, all of these are shifting, because $16 is barely a living wage. So your lowest paid employees are barely getting a living wage. If your work has that much demand, it probably should garner more. But that's another discussion. If you have 5 jobs and you have 10 people, no matter how hard 5 of these people work, no matter how much drive they have, no matter how much will they have, no matter how much skills they have, no matter what degrees they have, 5 of these people can't have a job. Because we have 5 available jobs and we have 10 people who need jobs. That is absolutely the purpose of minimum wage. This actually pisses me off. It makes me angry because every one of you is smart enough to use Google. Hang on, I'll find it for you. We can't do that anymore. That boat has sailed, sadly. Hang on. I'm finding the actual quote right now for you. Minimum wage is about $16, $17 an hour. A living wage is about $16, $17 an hour. And that's supposed to be what minimum wage is. The idea that a minimum wage is an entry job is an asinine statement, and I don't mean that directly towards you, Ben Brady. You're being brainwashed by that bullshit for your entire life. But that's an absolute bullshit statement. So, this is a quote from the President of the United States of America in 1933 address, who was responsible for the creation of the minimum wage in the Fair Labor Standards Act. No, I am not wrong. You are wrong. This quote supersedes anything you think you know, because that's like telling Einstein that the intent of his equations was wrong. Now, maybe the equations will end up being wrong, but his intentions are wrong. Do you know what the average age is for a minimum wage worker? Do you know what the average age is? 35 years old with a family. The average age of a minimum wage worker is 35 years old with a family. Okay? 1933 address from the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the person who created the minimum wage. So his opinion trumps anything you think you know, because he made it. He created it. So his opinion trumps anything you think you know. He can't be wrong. He made it. He is by definition what is right. He is the definition of right. Anything that disputes what he said is by definition wrong. No business which depends for existence on paying less than a minimum wage to its workers has any right to continue in this country. By business, I mean the whole of commerce as well as the whole of industries. By workers, I mean all workers, white-collar class as well as the men in overall. And by living wages, I mean more than a bare subsistence level. I mean the wage of decent living. Those are his words. He created it. His words are by definition correct. Anything that disagrees with those words is by definition wrong. We created mathematics. We determined that 2 plus 2 equals 4. Since we created the math, 2 plus 2 equals 4 is by definition correct. Anything that disputes 2 plus 2 is 4 is by definition wrong, because this is the definition. That's a different kind of problem. So by definition, the minimum wage was created explicitly to make sure we ended slave wages. That if you give up your life for a business, and if you work 40 hours a week full time, you are giving up your life for a business, then you deserve enough income to at least survive with a decent living. They're right here. They love sleeping together. Yes, the problems are connected, but we have to deal with them individually. For example, no. In 1933, it was supposed to be 40 cents an hour because that was determined to be a living wage. And it got beat down to 25 cents in order to get it passed. It was supposed to be 40 cents. If it was passed as intended, because remember, it gets watered down by Congress. You propose the law, and then all the people who don't like it fight against it. And here's something interesting for you. Do you know why they suppress the minimum wage? Because they do not want the forces of supply and demand to come into effect. Because if the forces of supply and demand came into effect, minimum wage would be $27 an hour. So if you think of it like this, if we passed on the savings of efficiency, technology, automation, etc., back into society like we should, because we are all equal partners in society, and in the past, that's what we did. That's why you saw in 1933 it was. In 1933, it absolutely was. The problem we have today is that we artificially keep businesses running that should not exist. So a good thing to talk about regarding the we've never had capitalism. If we had capitalism, this wouldn't be a problem. Capitalism would fix this. In fact, that's why capitalism was made. Capitalism was made to fix this. So was socialism and communism. Socialism, communism, and capitalism were all invented for the same reason. The natural state of human beings is monarchy, or whatever you want to call it, okay? The natural state of human beings is monarchy. Kings, queens, dictators, and rulers. That's the natural state of human beings. That doesn't come from capitalism. Capitalism is an answer to monarchy. So is socialism, so is communism. If you actually look up the definition of communism, socialism, and capitalism, they're all pretty damn similar. When I finally looked up all three, I was like, what the fuck? They almost sound like synonyms of each other. There's only some very minor differences between capitalism, socialism, and communism. So why did we make those three things? Why did we make those three isms? Those three isms were implemented to fight monarchy. They were implemented to level the playing field, not to make everybody equal, because you can't make people equal. That doesn't make any sense. I am superior to you at 3D printing. You're not going to be equal to me at 3D printing, assuming we both keep advancing at the same level. All right? But that engineer down the road is superior to me at building design. And Magic Johnson is superior to me at basketball. And, the doctor in the hospital is superior to me at medicine. The race car driver is superior to me at driving. You can't make people equal. That doesn't make any sense. Equality equals nothing. Equality equals drones. I don't want equality, and you shouldn't want equality. What we want is fairness. Fairness is not the same thing as equality. All right? But fairness is what we should be aiming for. Socialism, communism, and capitalism were all designed to improve fairness. That was the point. People say, well, capitalism leads to this. No, it doesn't. The drive to monarchy leads to this. Equity, not equality. So, capitalism is the people own the means of production for profit. People say, well, no, it says private individuals. Private individuals equals the people. Because you have to read the other half of the definition of capitalism. Everybody keeps forgetting to read the other half of the definition of capitalism. The people, private individuals, own the means of production for profit other than the state. Okay? So the reason they say private individuals and not the people is because in this context, the people doesn't work. Because the people has two meanings. You have the people, meaning all of us, and you have the people who aren't the state. They both use the same word. So to make sure they differentiated from that, they couldn't say the people, because the state is made of the people. Trump and Biden are people. So they said private individuals to distinguish from the individuals that are the state. Okay? So capitalism is the people own the means of production and for profit, other than the state. People say, well, Bezos isn't the state. The fuck he isn't. Bezos absolutely is the state. You see, most people don't understand what the state means. Okay? Because the state also has meanings. Right? And, 100 years ago, 300 years ago, the church was, more than 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, the church was in charge. The church was the state. What people don't realize is that we had three basic entities in operation. You had the people, you had the state, and you had the church. And the church had influence over the state. So the church was the state. So you have the political state, the government, and you have the religious state, the church. If you exert state-like power, you are not the people. You are the state. People like Bezos exert state-like power. They write the legislation that Congress passes. Corporations write congressional legislation. Their PACs then hand that legislation to congressmen and say, we're paying you. Pass this legislation. They are the state. Instead of being the religious state, the church, we now have the corporate state, the wealthy people in this country. But rest assured, they are not the people. They are the state. Therefore, they are not capitalist, because the definition of capitalism says the people other than the state. So if you're a state entity, then it's not capitalism. You know, remember that thing in Texas where they threw away all that food in the dumpster and they actually got the police to protect the dumpster and keep people from taking the food out of the dumpster? People say, well, that's what capitalism does. Excuse me. The last I checked, the police are the state. So you have this company exerting state power, the police, to protect their garbage. That's not capitalism. It's not even close to capitalism. Having a business, a corporation, you know, when you incorporate, that's literally a state-sanctioned entity. You have to file with the state to create that entity. Well, today we're not doing 3D printing because we're only going to be here for another 30 or 40 minutes. And then I have to go. I have a job. I got to take some pictures of some property. And the drone. Going to use the drone too. But, so today we have the people, the corporate state, and the political state. The political state's the government, the corporate state is the businesses and the rich people, and the people is us. No, I don't have part 107. Well, we don't talk about Democrats, Republicans. That is a Canon 7D. I believe it's a Mark 1. Yeah, 7D Mark 1. And this is actually a pretty good lens. This is the Canon STM lens. It's a 18 to 250 or 18 to 200. It's actually a pretty nice lens for a cheap lens. It's one of the I'm going to call it a mid-grade lens. You know, it's actually a halfway decent lens. It's a pretty sharp lens. And I don't think so. I think that's an old camera. Isn't that an XTI or an XSI? Yeah, that's only a 6 megapixel camera. That's old. Now, if you're getting into DSLRs, yes, if you can get it cheap enough, you get it for $100, grab it. It's still a decent camera, but it's not going to compare to a more modern camera. But if you're comparing it to like your cell phone, that's a good camera. I doubt it's a full frame sensor. Does it tell me? It's an APS-C size sensor. So it's much, much bigger than what's in your cell phone, for example. But it's smaller than a full frame sensor. It's a 1.6 crop factor. Now, interestingly enough, for rocketry, a 1.6 crop factor is actually advantageous because you're not using the entire lens. So this here is a 200 millimeter lens. And on my 5D Mark II, it's 200 millimeters. But on this camera with its APS-C sensor, it's equivalent to a 320 millimeter lens. So if you were to put a 320 millimeter lens on your 5D Mark II compared to this 7D with a 200 millimeter lens, we have the same focal length because of the crop factor, because of the smaller sensor. Thermo printer? Grab it. 30 pounds for an SLR. Does it come with a lens or is it just a body? If it comes with a lens and a battery and a charger, snatch it up, man. It's a very cheap way to get into photography. Believe it or not, the bodies is not what you really should be aiming for. It's glass. You want good glass. And that does mean you have to decide, do you want to go Canon or Nikon or Sony? But whichever one you pick, they all make great lenses. So, for example, I'm going to be getting that 70-200 2.8 Mark II lens. You know, that's a $2,100 lens. I got it for a whole lot cheaper than that. Got a used one. Oh yeah, today's modern phone cameras are impressive. But what you want is decent glass. So, for example, if I were to ever upgrade to, say, a 5D Mark IV or a 7D Mark III, I can take this lens and move it onto that camera. So I don't have to replace the glass. So if I have good glass to begin with, then I get a lot more life out of my money because I can use it all on the newer cameras. But that's also why you never want to switch. You don't want to switch from Canon to Nikon or Nikon to Pentax or Pentax to Sony because then you lose all your lenses. I have some stuff online. I think it's broken right now because I'm moving my domain names. Does it still work? It still works. NaramLive.com will get you to all my Naram photographs. And Rocketry Live is down right now. I have to move all of that to NaramLive.com because someone stole my domain name. Probably not. The Sapphire Pro is, when it comes to what kind of plastic it can print, it's no different than an Ender 3. It's a PTFE lined standard hot end with a standard thermistor and heater cartridge. Now you can print low temperature PC like Esun. They have some low temperature PCs that if you're very careful, you could print on one of these printers. But to print actual, high temp plastics, you would need to perform upgrades to be able to handle those higher temperature plastics. And it's going to be the same upgrades whether it's a Sapphire Pro or an Ender 3. Well, I found out that the 100-400L lens is about the same quality as a 70-200 2.8 with a 2x doubler. So I went with the 70-200 and the doubler because that gives me more flexibility. Because the 70-200 without the doubler is fast. Good lens. A lady at a launch once let me attach it to my camera for a couple of shots. I wanted to drool. Oh my god, that lens is so fast. I mean, just bang, 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 bang. The autofocus just cracked right where it needed to be every time. God, what a good lens. It's taking me 7 years to be able to afford one. Because I did not want the f4L. I wanted the 2.8. Because that allows me to use the doubler. And with the doubler, that is 400 millimeters, which is the same as the 100-400. But with the crop factor, that's a 676, I'm sorry. That's a 640 millimeter equivalent. Hell yeah. I'm also looking at the Sigma 150-600. I've seen pictures come out of that lens that are mind-blowing. I mean, clarity that is fantastic. Both an f-stop and the quality. The even on my, at the time it was my 5D Mark II, just putting her lens on my camera made my camera faster. My 100-400, you'd have a little hunting. You'd go to, it would be like tit. Okay, got it. And I put her 70-200 on my camera, and it was like tit, instantly every time. That lens is so fast, it's sick. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Super stoked about that. I've been waiting for over 7 years to get a lens like that. That's why I was so depressed when my brother stole my cameras. It wasn't the body that I cared about. I can get another body for $300 or $400. It was the $2,000 lens that he stole. That hurt. That hurt so bad. I even got it serviced by Canon. They did it for free, which was very nice of them. It was out of warranty. I bought it used. But they serviced it for free. They fixed it. It was perfect. What are you going to do? I got to stop worrying about that. It's in the past. It's gone. It's done with. But it's just depressing when you think about it. Because I had so much of my life into that one case. I had so much of my life in that case. Years of labor to save up the money to buy that equipment. Yeah. Do you know what's really scary? Just make something. I can do that. I know people. My dad knows people, and I know those people. If I asked one of them to do something, they probably would. And that scares the fuck out of me that there's people like that out there. I mean, they're good people, don't get me wrong, but they have a bad history, and it scares me to think that, I could dial a number in this phone and do something to him. It makes me very, very happy that I'm a decent person and I don't dial those numbers. Because that's just, nobody should have that power. Nobody should have that power. The world is a weird place. But, I'm building it back up eventually, little by little. Very little by very little, it'll happen. I want to make sure I know that guy's name, because he's one of my heroes for doing that. Let me see if I can find him. Hey, we got PayPals. I didn't even notice that. Colin, $20 on PayPal, and JMC Computers, $5.28 on PayPal. Thank you very much. That is awesome. Oh, that's a different kind of scary person. I'm thinking, Godfather kind of people, not, druggies kind of people. Ouch. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Without you guys, this would not be possible. Let me see if I can find this. No, I probably got rid of messages that old. No, that's only 2 years ago. That should still be here. How would I find it? It's not going back far enough. That doesn't do it. I want to say his name's John. I hope I'm right, because he deserves the credit. But he's the one, he gave it to me. Didn't even charge me. He wouldn't take any money. He gave it to me. The 7D. That was right after I called the police to file a theft report on my brother. So, not a fun day. What are you going to do? You deal with it, you move on. Yeah, it's dangerous. Well, these people are family, so I'm not worried about that. They would never hurt me. But I don't even like the idea that I can access that kind of thing. That's wrong. It's just wrong. Nobody should have that kind of power. No, I can't think of any printer out of the box that will print carbonate properly. You need a printer. You need a high temperature printer with an all metal hot end. I would suggest something from who makes the Copperhead? Slice Engineering. I would suggest looking at upgrades from Slice Engineering. But a printer from a hot end from Slice Engineering, where they also have the upgraded thermistors and the upgraded heater cartridges, because you need a higher power heater cartridge, and the temperatures you'll be printing at are going to be outside the range of a normal thermistor, so you need a new thermistor. And you also need to make sure you're using a printer or a board where you have access to the firmware, because you're going to have to make changes in the firmware for that board to properly communicate with the different thermistor and the heater cartridge. And Ender 3 is not a bad option for that, because the Ender 3 can hit 120 on the bed. The highest temperature I was able to get on an Ender 3 is 133 degrees Celsius. Was that the Ender 3? I think that was the Ender 3. Because I was testing out Wham Bam, and I wanted to see how hot I can get it. And the Wham Bam didn't separate, didn't lose its, didn't get degoused. But the Ender 3 will hit 120. Especially, obviously, you're going to put it in an enclosure, and that's going to help. But 120 is just hot enough to get to those higher temperature plastics. So your cheapest path there is an upgraded Ender 3. Also, the Ender 3 would allow you to move some of those components outside of the enclosure. For example, the power supply and the LCD screen, you could move them outside the enclosure. But yeah, that's what you need. You need a decent printer to start with, and then you have to upgrade the hot end and the electronics to be able to handle the higher temperatures. I am not aware of a affordable, ready to go, like you buy a kit, like an Ender 3. I'm not aware of a budget level high temperature printer. I'm not aware of any that are capable of that. There's a couple that can go to 300, and that would let you do polycarbonate, I think. I'm pretty sure 300 is enough to do polycarbonate and nylon pretty effectively. Of course, if you want to do like peak and stuff like that, you got to go quite a bit higher. Ultim 1010 peak, you got to go quite a bit higher if you want to do that. 300 is not enough. But 300 would let you do sub polycarbonates and nylons. Wow. They vary that much, huh? Did I bookmark that link? You could do nylon if you got like an Esun nylon. If you cranked it up to 260 degrees, if you slowed down to like 25 millimeters per second and you put it in an enclosure, you can get away with nylon. Some nylons, it depends. You're gonna have to go slow though, because you're not really printing hot enough for nylon. Your bond is gonna be very poor unless you really slow down to let that heat soak and create good bonding. Arc welder plugin, what's that? Oh, yes, and you're going to need to dry it. Absolutely going to need to dry it. Nylon almost always needs to be dried. 13 pounds for a kilo of nylon? Dude, that's cheap. Is it actually a kilo or is it a half kilo? Oh, here we go. $89. Oh, but $91 delivery. Yeah, they have them on Alibaba, but it's, $200 with delivery. Wow. Dude, that is so cheap for nylon. Worth it just to play with it at that price. Holy crap. If I found nylon for $12.99 US, I'd snatch that up so fast. So it always under extrudes each time it starts a new extrusion, or just the first layer? Make sure you don't have any sort of coast enabled. If you have coast enabled, it's going to cause you a problem. Yeah, that's I don't know for sure without seeing it, but that sounds like you might have coast enabled. The shower drenching? PLA. It's PLA and it still looks brand new. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. In Cura, there is something called coast. I don't know exactly where it is, but you should be able to find it by doing a search. You know how when you go to that screen where you can tell it which settings to show you, you can type in the box there to search for which setting you want to turn on or off. Do a search for Coast. I'm pretty sure it's called Coast. Um, yes, the option is called Enable Coasting. You have coasting volume and minimum volume before coasting. Make sure those are turned off. Do not mess with coasting until you know what you're doing. Because coasting can actually result in an overall negative retraction, meaning it can actually pull the filament all the way out of the printer. KFC's advert just came on. What was in the advert? Good. Let's see. What else could cause under extrusion during each start? Yeah, if it's... Oh, no. If it's unticked, that means it's just not showing it to you. That doesn't mean it's not enabled. So tick it and make sure it's set for 0. And then you can untick it again. Cure is a little weird like that. You can actually turn settings on and off, so the settings still work, you just don't see them. So make sure it's set for 0. Beyond that, I would assume a PTFE nozzle leak. You have an issue at the interface between a PTFE and the nozzle. I have an entire video on how to take it apart and diagnose that for that particular printer. So if you go to Nerys.com, go to my T3DP tips section, there's an entire video that goes through the entire process, explains how it works, why it works. You might also want to look into Luke Hadfield's hot end fix. It does actually work. KFC mini filet. Oh, that must be a UK only thing. Because when I did a search for it, it came up with UK. Waiting for the pictures to load. How's my CPU? 68%. Oh, tenders. It's just chicken tenders. We call them tenders here. You guys call them mini fillets. You talking about that? Okay, if you're having that problem with Luke's install, then you may have made the PTFE a little tiny bit too short. You might need to make it like 1 millimeter longer. No, I don't. No, I don't know. That's weird. I wonder why. Trust and Thrust is where I'm going to put the rocketry stuff. There hasn't been a whole lot there lately, simply because, well, I haven't been going to rocket launches. Can't afford it, you know. When I was working 3 jobs, I couldn't take off for a rocket launch. I went to NARAM every year for 21 years. Never missed an Arab. And now I haven't been to one in years, just because I can't afford it. I don't know, man. I don't do CNC. I don't know. I know you can use Gerbil, and you can import images into Gerbil. What's that other one? Light something. And Inkscape. Colin just posted about Inkscape. That'll work too. Oh, really? Oh, well, my picture page is narumlive.com. Otherwise, I believe Trust and Thrust goes to it. Potential security risk. How do you have a potential security risk? Oh, bad cert domain? What's that mean? I don't have SSL. Why is that even trying to use SSL? Yeah, that trustandthrust.com just goes to my Rocketry YouTube channel. So if I post any rocketry videos, that's where it'll be. And I do plan to start that soon. I've got a bunch of rocket kits. As soon as I have a dedicated space to start doing it, I'm going to start doing videos for that. Now, a lot of my videos are scattered all over the place before I really understood how YouTube worked. I have like 10 different YouTube channels. So to see all of my rocket pictures, go to narumlive.com. And for each Narum, there'll be direct links to the individual YouTube channels. Nice. I built a 400% downscale of a mosquito once. I made a mosquito this big. I called it the virus. I used the little 6mm Micromax engines. I love the Micromax engines. I love the little tiny rockets. I appreciate it. Happy victims! Happy victims! Yay, it shows 58! I'm trying desperately to get Life of Nerisse up to 1,000 subscribers so I can monetize it. I actually get enough views on that channel that I can make, $20 a month over time on that channel, but you got to have 1,000 subscribers in order to get monetized. So, it'll get there eventually. I've been stagnating at 770. It's like, come on, it's 230. Ooh, not good. I add clips to Life of Nerisse. I tried posting a Just Kitty Cats video once. It did not do well. It was one of the worst videos I did. Thank you. So I add little clips of the cats in with my regular videos. I tell people the ETP protocol can work. It can work. Talk about annoying me, a gadget. I got these solar lights from that review site. And they're actually pretty nice. That's metal, that's plastic, and it's a nice spike. This is plastic, but the top is metal, and that's glass. It's actually and it's pretty bright too. It's actually a pretty bright solar light as far as solar lights go, and it uses a user replaceable lithium iron phosphate battery. So it's a naked cell that you can just buy another cell and replace it, so it doesn't go bad because you can't replace the battery, and that should last 10 years. The problem is, they went to all this effort to make this beautiful metal, plastic, and glass light with a nice, bright, warm white LED, a user-replaceable lithium iron phosphate battery, and then they use a resin-filled solar panel. Yeah, I do. Nerisse.com. If you go there, there's a link to all my channels. You see, there's a problem with resin-filled solar panels. Most of the time. Maybe things have changed. I'll put them outside for a year and we'll see what happens. But in the past, the resin that they use to fill the solar panel to make it waterproof is not UV stable. You ever see a solar light where this is turned white, opaque, and yellow? Well, as this gets more and more opaque, Oh, you want the Fingermatic 3000, huh? Hang on, I'll get you a link. I just realized I have like 15 tabs open, and that's really, really bad. Yeah, it goes cloudy. Well, guess what happens when it goes cloudy? Less light gets to the solar panel. Now, you can polish it. You get some toothpaste or some polishing compound and a microfiber cloth, and you can sit there and you can polish it clear again. But it's just going to fog up again. And eventually, because each time you polish it, you're actually removing some. And eventually, you're going to reach the solar panel and destroy it. So, that's an automatic 3-star, when you have a resin-filled solar panel, because they're junk. And what sucks is this is not a junk light. This is a beautiful light. And they ruined it by having the resin-filled solar panel. Here we go. This is the good one. Oh, yeah. Come on. Why won't you let me click it? There it is. Man, it takes forever for the site strip to load. So here's the expensive one. There's the nice one, $300. And then there is a cheaper one. Come on. Come on. Ooh, this one's orange. Hey, Scott. There's the link. This is the cheap one. It's only $118. Wow, $79 is a great price for that. And then this one here, $75. You get a little mini chainsaw. It's so cute. Wow, it is $79. Holy crap. I'm almost tempted to get a second one, but I don't need a second one. Here's the itty bitty chainsaw. So if cutting off fingers is not enough, take off the whole damn arm. Yeah, it's because I have too much stuff open. I'm about to close this browser window to try to speed it back up again. But I wanted to get those links for you guys. So let me close the browser. Alright, and close Simplify 3D. That should help. It should pick back up in a moment. Heck yeah! And I'm only running a single camera, so that helps a little bit. Yeah, there, it's starting to, it's picked back up now. Now we're smooth. Because I can actually see it stutter on my end. What I have to do is use my phone to check for things like that. Well, I gotta get because it's about time for that conference call, and then I got to go take the pictures on the site. So I will see you guys next week. Let's see, shout out to anybody else. Okay, nope, we're good to go there. That's it. So you got an expensive one that's a 20 volt. You got a cheaper 12 volt one. You got a little mini chainsaw, and you got the document camera. The document camera for $80 is a steal. If you have any need for something like that, grab it. It's got a Sony sensor in it. It's a good quality unit. It's a nice freaking camera. If you have a need for something like that. So, I will see you guys next week. Next week, what do you guys want to do next week? Do you want to do the Kaiwu again, since they sent me a final unit? Or do you want to do the Artillery Hornet? Because I got the Artillery Hornet and I got the Kaiwu. Which one do you guys want to do? I will leave it up to you. Well, we're going to do both, just not both in the same week. Looks like the Hornet's going to win this one. All right, unless I get comments to the contrary of sufficient numbers, we will do the Artillery Hornet next week, and then the week after we will do the Kaiwu. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for joining in. I appreciate it very much. Thank you to those who are still part of my Patreon. Thank you to those who are... Let me get this back up again. Thank you. Kawyyoo or something like that. It's got kind of a CR10 V2 or CR10 6SE type, plastic enclosed, hot end, yellow. Looks pretty cool. But that's it. I will see you guys next week where we will do the Artillery Hornet. And thank you all for using my links down below. I appreciate that greatly. It helps out a lot. Thank you to my patrons. Thank you to the guys supporting me with PayPal. And that's it. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. We like ranting. It's fun.